All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, another college football season is winding down, and once again, the Pac 12 will be left out of the college football playoff party. Last night's Pac 12 championship game was supposed to be the coronation party for the conference's marquee program, but the defending conference champions had something to say about that. The USC Trojans took the field at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, ranked fourth in the college football playoff polls, and a win by the men of Troy over the Utes of Utah would have ensured SC of their first trip to the college football playoff in program history. And early on, it appeared to be that was the way things are going to turn out as the Trojans jumped to the early 17-3 advantage. But the game changed in the second quarter when Utah scored a pair of touchdowns to knock the score at 17 apiece just before the break. And the second half of this contest really belonged to the Utah defense as they stymied one of the top offenses in the nation. Now, this is the second consecutive year for Utah not only winning the Pac 12, but also shattering the playoff dreams rather, of one of their conference brethren. Last year, the Utes beat Oregon two times in a 3 week span. And if you remember the Pac 12 championship game last year, Utah ran the Ducks off the field in Vegas. This time, they did it to USC. And of course, they met earlier in the season in Salt Lake City, and it was Utah. They got the 1 point win after they went for a late 2 point conversion and were successful. But, in doing so, and I'm not knocking Utah because, first and foremost, their objection is to go out there and win games and win the conference, which they did, and they earned it, and they deserve it. And they're going to get their second consecutive appearance in the Rose Bowl for it. But as a whole, you're looking at the Pac 12. They have not made the college football playoff now since 2016, and only twice since the tournament's inception going back to 2014. Now, we've seen this conference over the years, and typically what has happened, these teams just beat up on each other throughout the year, and there's really not a lot that separates a lot of these teams within the Pac-12 conference. And I think that is a big reason why, none of these teams are able to break through and take that next step. Also, the Pac-12 has really struggled out of conference, against other marquee conferences and marquee opponents. You go back to Utah. To their credit, they took a game that a lot of people won't take to begin the season on the road at Florida, and the Utes came up just short in that contest. You have to wonder if Utah was able to win that game, will we be talking about the Utes possibly getting into the playoffs right now? You don't know. But nonetheless, obviously, things are going to change going forward with the expansion of the college football playoff. Of course, I've told you time and time again, and I will continue to say it. I am not a fan of it because I feel it's more watering down, and it's going to become basically a participation trophy. As people are going to feel like, well, you know what? If we win our conference, we should just be in there. So I look at it like this: from the Pac-12 standpoint, Utah going forward, they are now and they right now are the class of this Pac 12 conference because you look at them, four trips to the conference championship game since 2018. And now they've won the conference in consecutive years and obviously going back to Pasadena for the Rose Bowl. But I think also Utah's win was tremendous for the Pac 12 as a whole going forward, especially with the impending departure of USC and UCLA. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. Maybe the Pac 12 should look to add a Boise State, maybe even possibly a Fresno State who beat Boise today to win the Mountain West Championship game, maybe a San Diego State to get yourself another presence in the Southern California region. Obviously, not the presence that USC and UCLA have, but a presence nonetheless. And then maybe go after that Dallas market to get more money to get somebody like SMU. Just throwing that out there. But nonetheless, getting back to this game, this was important for the Pac-12 going forward because it's saying, yeah, USC has a tradition. They have the heritage. They've been the face of the Pac-8, and of course, than the Pac-10 and now the Pac-12 for a long time. But now it's a dawn of a new day since they are getting ready to prep and leave for the Big Ten. Now, of course, the dream season for USC ended last night, and I say obviously they still have their bowl game. They're going to get a New Year's Six game nonetheless. But the turnaround. We saw what USC was last year. They bring in Lincoln Riley from Oklahoma, and right immediately, this team is right back on the national scene, winning games and giving the West Coast life. Obviously, the dream just fell slightly short of getting to the college football playoff, and of course, in doing so, teams such as Alabama and Ohio State were watching with bated breath. And one of them is definitely going to be assured of making the playoff now, especially after TCU lost today as well. But you look at this right now, and from Utah's standpoint, Kyle Whittingham to me does not get enough credit and respect nationally for what he has done with this program. You think about it; it's been nearly 20 years since Whittingham has been at the helm of this Utah program. Of course, he was an assistant coach under Urban Meyer when he was there. And of course, Meyer left in 2005 to take the Florida job. Whittingham has been the guy in Salt Lake City for this program ever since then. Utah always gets a lot of the kids that are overlooked by the bigger programs coming out of high school. And then, a guy like Kyle Whittingham has consistently put players in the NFL. And you think about Whittingham doing it previously, in the Mountain West Conference, having success there, leading Utah to an undefeated season, which included knocking off Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. You think about the transition period to get to the Pac-12 conference and the success that he has had there, and he continues to have there as well. And this is why I think Utah has now become the premier program in this conference, and I think they're going to be one of the premier programs in the Pac-12 going forward, depending on what happens, whether this conference is able to add more schools. We just got to wait and see. But for Lincoln Riley and USC, obviously it didn't come short, full circle completely as far as getting to the playoff. But I want to see, what type of USC team we're going to see in their bowl game, because this was a huge letdown for them. And let's see if they try to finish the year on a positive note. And on the flip side, Caleb Williams. I mean, this guy was and is the real deal. He should be invited to New York for the Heisman. If he does not win the Heisman Trophy this year, I definitely think that he'll be in the mix for it next year. And he's probably going to be a top 5 pick in the 2024 NFL draft. So, hats off to Utah. They were the best team in the Pac-12 this season, and the proof is in the pudding as they hoisted the trophy as conference champions last night, and they've got themselves a Rose Bowl date in about a month. But nonetheless, the Pac-12 will once again come up short in regards to making the playoff. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now, you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I'm signing off, saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.